Good morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, I had a voice radio, so today we're going to be looking at banned cards, or more accurately, a card that I think is going to be banned in about 3 months' time. Now, yesterday, Pokémon redid their ban list. They redo this every 3 months, and this time they decided that no new cards needed to be banned. But if you look at the wording, they say, tournament results will continue to be analysed to maintain a healthy play environment. In particular, the expanded format will be aggressively monitored because there are so many cards and potential combinations available to use. Essentially, cards are going to be banned by Pokémon if they lead to stupidity. And there is one card in the expanded format that absolutely matches that description. It's Dimension Valley. Dimension Valley is a stadium card that came around in Phantom Forces, and what it does is it reduces the attack cost of all psychic Pokemon on the field by a single colourless energy. The problem is that since this came out, a lot of stupid things have started to become apparent, and it is taking over the expanded format. Now, the reason it's not been banned this time, I believe, is because it's not quite aggressive enough in terms of how well it's doing in the expanded format. But I believe that over the next 3 months, tournament results will keep coming in, and in the expanded format, we're going to keep going, so all the best decks have Dimension Valley in, and I think that in 3 months' time, in February, right before the release of Ultra Prism, we are going to see Dimension Valley be banned in expanded. That's my prediction, and I am sticking to it. Now, it came about as a result of Night March. This is where the card really made its name, so to speak. And the reason is that when you're playing Night March, you've got Joltik and Pumpkaboo. Now, Joltik, for a double colourless energy, has the attack Night March, which does 20 damage for every Pokemon in the discard that has the Night March attack. And then, of course, you've got both Lampent and Pumpkaboo, who have the Night March attack, which means you can actually get up to very high damage very quickly. Then you've got Pumpkaboo, who's another basic Pokemon that can use Night March, but it's only for a double colourless energy if Dimension Valley is in play. So if we take away Dimension Valley, Night March is still a deck. You've still got Joltik, Lampent, Pumpkaboo, you've still got Battle Compressor to discard these Pokemon, but it means your attacking options are much lower than they were before. You can still use Marshadow to copy either Pumpkaboo or Joltik, but it's got 150 HP and gives up 2 prizes. You can still use Joltik for a double colourless energy, but you've only got 30 HP, it's very easily KO'd. It reduces the options for Night March. Night March has been the scourge of the expanded format for years. And you know what? If you just drop Dimension Valley out of the format, then Pumpkaboo becomes a lot worse. The deck is still viable, this deck is still good, but it stops being crazy good. Now, there are other Pokemon that have come about since Night March that can really take advantage of Dimension Valley. One that's been around for quite a long time is Trevenant Break. Now, Trevenant, the X and Y Trevenant, has an ability that stops your opponent playing item cards as long as Trevenant is in the active. Now, that alone is incredibly good. But then you add in Trevenant Break from Breakpoint, and it's got the ridiculous attack Silent Fear, which means that for a single psychic energy, assuming there's a Dimension Valley in play, you can drop 3 damage counters on each of your opponent's Pokemon. And this is another deck which is kind of annoying until Dimension Valley comes in and just makes it really stupid. Trevenant, nice ability, alright attack, nothing amazing. Trevenant Break, good attack, for 1 energy, ridiculous attack. Your opponent is scrabbling to get set up, and you're dropping 3 damage counters on each of their Pokemon. So again, this is a deck which is really good with Dimension Valley. And you remove Dimension Valley, it doesn't destroy the deck, it doesn't mean you can't play the deck anymore, but it means that that extra energy cost on Trevenant Break means that it's just a little bit harder to get set up, a little bit slower, gives your opponent more of a chance in the game. As a side note, yes, I know the promo Giratina has been released, and that actually does really help against Trevenant Break, because now you can play the promo Giratina, which turns off the abilities of any break Pokemon, so essentially either they evolve and they've got Silent Fear but not the ability, or they don't evolve and then they've got the ability but not Silent Fear. That does help. Now the thing is, these two decks have been pretty big with Dimension Valley for a while. They've been very good with Dimension Valley for a while. And they've been two of the best decks in Expanded. But now, ladies and gentlemen, we've had a flurry of cards coming out, where just reducing that attack cost by one colourless energy makes them frankly a little bit dumb. You want the dumbest example of all of them? How about Necrozma GX? Necrozma GX is frankly ridiculous. For 3 colourless energy, it's got the GX attack, Black Ray GX, that just does 100 damage to each of your opponent's EX and GX Pokémon. But of course, we've got double colourless energy. So if you combine double colourless energy with Dimension Valley, 1 energy attachment, and all of a sudden, you're doing 100 damage to all the EXs and GXs on your opponent's side of the field. That's incredibly powerful. All you need to do is 3 little attacks onto EXs or GXs, bring them down to 100 HP, and then all of a sudden you can take 6 prizes in 1 turn with Necrozma and win the game there and then. And people have started doing this. And there are a whole bunch of other Pokemon that people have started using along with Necrozma. How about the Mimikyu from Guardians Rising, which has got the copycat attack. If your opponent used a non-GX attack during their last turn, you copy it for a Psychic and a Colourless. Pretty good, until Dimension Valley comes in and it's for 1 Psychic energy. Tapu Bulu comes in with Nature's Judgment, doing 180 for 3 energy with the discard. You then get to copy that same attack, KOing a Tapu Bulu for 1 energy, while discarding it. That, ladies and gentlemen, is a little bit absurd. Want another example? How about the as yet unreleased in anywhere outside of Japan, to be honest, Tapu Lele? For 1 Psychic Energy and a Colourless, or indeed 1 Psychic Energy with Dimension Valley out, you get to rearrange all of the damage counters on your opponent's side of the field. This is a ludicrously good attack that, if dropped at the right time, can allow you to manipulate the damage counters so that you win the game there and then. For 2 energy, it means that you're going to have to probably telegraph it a little bit. Your opponent might see it coming. But for 1 energy, drop Tapu Lele, attach an energy, win the game. Now this is really good with Metagross, who can attach a Psychic Energy from the discard, but that's a Stage 2 Pokemon, which has to be played really as its own deck, and then you got to have the energy in a discard. That is an awful lot more than just playing a stadium. Yes, you can play this with Max Elixir to get the energy on, but you've got to play the Max Elixir, and then you've got to have Tapu Lele on your bench, and then you've actually got to have an energy in the top 6 cards of your deck. I am not saying there aren't other ways to get the second energy on Pokemon, like Tapu Lele, Mimikyu, Necrozma, etc. I am saying that Dimension Valley makes it easy to the point where it's arguably unfair to any decks that are not playing Dimension Valley. Even something like a Garbodor deck. Now, Garbodor doesn't really gain anything from Dimension Valley because, okay, Acid Spray comes down to a Psychic and a Colourless, but a lot of the time you may as well just use a double Colourless anyway. But the thing is, in Expanded, we've got the Tool Drop Trubbish, 20 damage for every Pokemon Tool card attached to anyone on the field. Well, then that comes down to a single Psychic Energy attachment. So even though Garbodor doesn't get that much better, all of a sudden, it's evolving from a really useful Pokemon with a really good attack. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is entirely my point here. If we look at the last big tournament that happened kind of outside of Japan, then we're looking at the Daytona Beach Regional Championships in Florida, where all of the top 4 decks played Dimension Valley. There were 642 Masters, and the top 4 all played Dimension Valley. First place, Ryan Sablehouse with Garbodor and Necrozma. Second place, Bob Zhang with Trevenant. Third place, Azul Garcia Grigo, apologies for the pronunciation, with Garbodor and Necrozma. Fourth place, Gustavo Wada with Night March. The top 4 decks all revolved around Dimension Valley. And that is why I think this could be the next card banned. Not because it's some amazing card that breaks the format, but because it's getting to the point where there's so many options here with Dimension Valley that it's getting to the stage where everybody either has to play Dimension Valley or accept the fact that they're not going to win the tournament. And that really is where banned cards come from. If we look at Japan, then the big story has apparently been Zoroark GX, when combined with Skyfield, is too good and unfair, etc. because Zoroark GX for a double colourless energy does Riotous Beating, which with a bench of 8 does 180 damage for a double colourless, does 20 damage for every Pokemon on your bench. Here's the thing though, the deck that won the last big tournament in Japan was Zoroark, but it didn't actually play Skyfield. It played Dimension Valley with cards like Mimikyu, like Necrozma, like Tapu Lele. Doesn't matter where you are, ladies and gentlemen, recently, and it has been a recent shift, all of the best decks in Expanded have been revolving around Dimension Valley. Pokemon tell us in their press release, they tell us in the post on their website, that they are aggressively monitoring the expanded format and they are going to analyse tournament results. And at the moment, I am seeing a big shift towards Dimension Valley being by far the most impactful card in Expanded. And it means that if you want to play other decks that don't revolve around Dimension Valley, gut it. Yes, it helps several decks, but those decks are becoming the only good ones. I believe it is going to be the next card banned and Expanded. I believe it could happen as early as February. But you know the deal, ladies and gentlemen. I want to know if you agree with me, so let me know in the comments. If there are other cards that you think are going to be banned instead, again, that's what the comment section is there for. Go nuts! Be nice. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at @TheWassy, and Twitch at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. That's where the live action happens. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts, etc., you can do so at patreon.com/PTCGRadio. But by far the most important thing, as always, is to look after yourselves until next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.